Canto 4. Resounding thunder broke the slumber deep that drowsed my senses, and myself I shook like one by force awakened out of sleep. Then rising up I cast a steady look, with eyes refreshed, on all that lay around, and cognizance of where I found me took. In sooth, me on the valley's brink I found of the dolorous abyss, where infinite despairing cries converge with thundering sound. Cloudy it was, and deep, and dark as night, so dark that, peering eagerly to find what its depths held, no object met my sight. "Descend we now into this region blind," began the poet, with a face all pale. "I will go first, and do thou come behind." Marking the wanness on his cheek prevail, I asked, "How can I, seeing thou hast dread my wonted comforter when doubts assail?" "The anguish of the people," then he said, "who are below, has pained on my face. Pity by thee for fear interpreted. Come, the long journey bids us move apace." Then entered he, and made me enter too, the topmost circle, girding the abyss. Therein, as far as I by listening knew, there was no lamentation save of sighs, whence throbbed the air eternal through and through. This sorrow without suffering made arise from infants, and from women, and from men, gathered in great and many companies. And the good master, "Wouldst thou nothing then of who those spirits are have me relate? Yet know, ere passing further, although when on earth they sinned not, worth, however, great availed them not. They, being unbaptized, part of the faith thou holdest. If their fate was to be born ere man was Christianized, God as behooved, they never could adore. And I myself am with this folk comprised. For such defects our guilt is nothing more. We are thus lost, suffering from this alone, that, hopeless, we our want of bliss deplore. Greatly I sorrowed when he made this known, because I knew that some who did excel in worthiness were to that limbo gone. "Tell me, O sir," I prayed him, "Master, tell that I of the belief might certainly win, victorious every error to dispel. Did ever any hence to bliss attain by merit of another or his own? And he, to whom my hidden drift was plain, I to this place but lately had come down, when I beheld one hither to make descent, a potentate, who wore a victor's crown. The shade of our first sire forth with him went, and his son Abel's, Noah's forth he drew, Moses, who gave the laws, the obedient patriarch Abraham, and King David's too, and with his sire and children Israel and Rachel, winning whom such toils he knew, and many more in blessedness to dwell. And I would have thee know, earlier than these, no human soul was ever saved from hell. While thus he spake, our progress did not cease, but we continued through the wood to stray, the wood, I mean, with crowded ghosts for trees. Ere from the summit far upon our way we yet had gone, I saw a flame, which glowed, holding a hemisphere of dark at bay. 'Twas still a little further on our road, yet not so far but that in part I guessed that honourable people there abode, of art and science ornament confessed. Who are these honoured in such high degree, and in their lot distinguished from the rest? He said, For them their glorious memory, still in thy world the subject of renown, wins grace by heaven distinguished thus to be. Meanwhile I heard a voice, Be honour shown to the illustrious poet, for his shade is now returning, which a while was gone. When the voice paused, nor further utterance made, 4 mighty shades grew near with one accord, in aspect neither sorrow nor glad. Consider that one, are made with a sword, began my worthy master in my ear, before thee advancing like their lord, for he is Homer, poet with no peer, Horace the satirist next in line, Ovid comes third, and Lucan in the rear. And 'tis because their claim agrees with mine, upon the name they with one voice did cry, they to their honour in my praise combine. Thus I beheld their goodly company, the lords of song, that exalted style, which o'er all others, eagle-like, soars high. Having conferred among themselves awhile, they turned towards me and salutation made, and, this beholding, did my master smile, and honour higher still to me was paid, for of their company they made me one, so I the 6th part 'mong such genius played. Thus journeyed we to where the brightness shone, holding discourse, which now 'tis well to hide, as where I was, to hold it was well done. At length we reached a noble castle's side, which lofty 7-fold walls encompassed round, and it was moated by a sparkling tide. This we traversed as if it were dry ground. I through 7 gates did with those sages go. Then in a verdant mead people we found, whose glances were deliberate and slow. Authority was stamped on every face. Seldom they spake in tuneful voices low. We drew apart to a high open space, upon one side which, luminously serene, did of them all a perfect view embrace. Thence, opposite, on the enamel green, were shown me mighty spirits. With delight I still am stirred them only to have seen. With many more, Electra was in sight. 'Mong them I Hector and Aeneas spied, Caesar in arms, his eyes like falcons bright. And opposite Camilla I descried, Penthesilea too, the Latin king, sat with his child Lavinia by his side. Brutus I saw, who Tarquin forth did flung, Cornelia, Marcia, Julia, and Lucrece. Saladin sat alone, considering what lay beyond with somewhat lifted eyes. The master I beheld of those that know, 'mong such as in philosophy were wise. All gazed on him as if toward him to show becoming honour. Plato in advance, with Socrates, the others stood below. Democritus, who set the world on chance, Thales, Diogenes, Empedocles, Zeno, and Anaxagoras met my glance. Heraclitus and Dioscorides, wise judge of nature, Tully, Orpheus, were with ethics Seneca and Linus. These, and Ptolemy too, and Euclid, Geometer, Galen, Hippocrates, Avicen, Averroes, the same who did prepare the comment saw I, nor can tell again the names of all I saw. The subject wide, so urgent is, time often fails me. Then in 2 bands the 6 of us divide. Me by another way my leader wise doth from the calm to air which trembles guide. I reach a part which all benighted lies. Canto 5. From the first circle thus I downward went, into the second, which girds narrower space, but greater woe compelling loud lament. Minos waits awful there and snarls, the case examining of all who enter in, and as he girds them, dooms them to their place. I say, each ill-starred spirit must begin on reaching him its guilt in full to tell, and he, omniscient as concerning sin, sees to what circle it belongs in hell. Then round him is his tale, as often curled as he would have it stages deep to dwell. And evermore before him stand a world of shades, and all in turn to judgment come, confess and hear, and then are downward hurled. O thou who comest to the very home of woe, when he beheld me, Minos cried, ceasing a while from utterance of doom, enter not rashly, nor in all confide. By ease of entering be not led astray. Why also growling? Answered him my guide. Seek not this course predestinate to stay, for thus 'tis willed where nothing ever fails of what is willed. No further speech essay. And now by me are agonizing wails, distinguished plain, now am I come out right, where grievous lamentation me assails. Now I had reached a place devoid of light, raging as in a tempest howls the sea, when with it winds blown thwart each other fight. The infernal storm is raging ceaselessly, sweeping the shades along with it, and them it smites and swirls, nor lets them ever be. Arrived at the precipitous extreme, in shrieks and lamentations they complain, and even the power divine itself blasphemy. I understood that to this mode of pain are doomed the sinners of the carnal kind, who o'er their reason let their impulse reign, as starlings in the winter time, combined float on the wing in crowded phalanx wide. So these bad spirits, driven by that wind, float up and down, and veer from side to side, nor for their comfort any hope they spy of rest, or even of suffering mollified. And as the cranes in long-drawn company pursue their flight while uttering their song, so I beheld approach with wailing cry, shades lifted onward by that whirlwind strong. Master, what folk are these? I therefore said, who by the murky air are whipped along? She, first of them, his answer thus was made, of whom thou wouldst a wider knowledge win. O'er many tongues and peoples empire swayed, so ruined was she by licentious sin, that she decreed lust should be uncontrolled, to ease the shame that she herself was in. She is Semiramis, of whom 'tis told she followed Ninus, and his wife had been. Hers were the realms now by the Sultan ruled. The next is she who, amorous and self-slain, unto Sichaeus' dust did faithless show. Then lustful Cleopatra, next was seen Helen, for whom so many years in woe ran out, and I the great Achilles knew, who at the last encountered love for foe. Paris I saw, and Tristram, in review 1,000 shades and more, he one by one pointed and named, whom love from life withdrew. And after I had heard my teacher run o'er many a dame of yore, and many a knight, I, lost in pity, was well nigh undone. Then I, O poet, if I only might speak with the two that as companions hie, and on the wind appear to be so light, he said to me, when they shall come more nigh, them shalt thou mark, and by the love shalt pray, which leads them onward, and they will comply. Soon as the wind bends them to where we stay, I lift my voice. O wearied souls and worn, come speak with us, if none the boon gainsay. Then, even as doves, urged by desire, return on outspread wings, and firm to their sweet nest, as through the air by mere volition borne, from Dido's band those spirits issuing pressed towards where we were, athwart the air malign. My passionate prayer such influence possessed. O living creature, gracious and benign, us visiting in this obscured air, who did the earth with blood incarnadine, if in favour of the king we were, who rules the world, we for thy peace would pray. Since our misfortunes thy compassion stir, whate'er now pleases thee to hear or say, we listen to or tell at your demand, while yet the wind as now doth silent stay. My native city lies upon the strand where to the sea descends the river Po, for peace, with all his tributary band. Love, in a generous heart, set soon aglow, seized him for the fair form was mine above, and still it irks me to have lost it so. Love which absolves no one beloved from love. So strong a passion for him in me wrought that, as thou seest, I still its mastery prove. Love led us where we in one death were caught. For him who slew us waits Caina now. Unto our ears these words from them were brought. When I had heard these troubled souls, my brow I downward bent, and long while musing stayed, until the poet asked, What thinkest thou? And when I answered him, Alas, I said, sweet thoughts how many, and what strong desire, these to their sad catastrophe betrayed. Then, turned once more to them, I to inquire began, Francesca, these thine agonies me with compassion unto tears inspire, but tell me, at the season of sweet sighs, what sign made love, and what the means he chose to strip your dubious longings of disguise. She to me, the bitterest of woes is to remember in thy midst of pain a happy past, as well thy teacher knows. Yet none the less, and since thou art so fain the first occasion of our love to hear, like one I speak that cannot tears restrain. As we for pastime one day reading, where how Lancelot by love was fettered fast. All by ourselves and without any fear, moved by the tale, our eyes we often cast on one another, and our colour fled. But one word was it, vanquished us at last. When how the smile, long wearied for, we read was kissed by him who loved like none before. This one, who henceforth never leaves me, laid a kiss on my mouth, trembling the while all over. The book was Galahad, and he was well, who wrote the book. The day we read no more, and while one shade continued thus to tell, the other wept so bitterly, I swooned away for pity, and as dead I fell. Ye, as a corpse falls, fell I on the ground. Canto 6. When I regained my senses, which had fled at my compassion for the kindred two, which for pure sorrow quite had turned my head, new torments and a crowd of sufferers new I see around me as I move again, where'er I turn, where'er I bend my view. In the third circle am I, of the rain which heavy, cold, eternal, big with woe, doth always of one kind and force remain. Large hail and turbid water mixed with snow keep pouring down athwart the murky air, and from the ground they fall on, stenches grow. The savage Cerberus, a monster drear, howls from his threefold throat with canine cries, above the people who are whelmed there. Oily and black his beard, and red his eyes, his belly huge. Claws from his fingers sprout, the shades he flays, hooks, rends in cruel wise. Beat by the rain these, dog-like, yelp and shout, and shield themselves in turn with either side, and oft the wretched sinners turn about. When we by Cerberus' great worm were spied, he opened his mouths, and all fangs he showed, while not a limb did motionless abide. My leader, having spread his hands abroad, filled both his fists with earth ta'en from the ground, and down the ravening gullets flung the load. Then, as sharp set with hunger barks the hound, but is appeased when at his meat he gnaws, and, worrying it, forgets all else around. So with those filthy faces there it was of the fiend Cerberus, who deafs the crowd of souls till they come hearing fain would pause. We, travelling o'er the spirits who lay cowed and sorely by the grievous showers harassed, upon their semblances of bodies trod. Prone on the ground the whole of them were cast, save one of them who sat upright with speed, when he beheld that near him we passed. O thou who art through this inferno led, me if thou canst, he asked me, recognize, for ere I was dismantled thou wast made. And I to him, thy present tortured guise perchance hath blurred my memory of thy face, until it seems I ne'er on thee set eyes. But tell me who thou art, within this place so cruel set, exposed to such a pain, than which, if greater, none has more disgrace. And he, thy city, swelling with the bane of envy till the sack is running o'er, me in the life serene did once contain. As Chaco, me your citizens named of yore, and for the damning sin of gluttony, I, as thou seest, am beaten by this shower. No solitary woeful soul am I, for all of these endure a self-same doom, for all the same fault. Here ended his reply. I answered him, O Chaco, with such gloom thy misery weighs me, I to weep am prone. But if thou canst, declare to what shall come the citizens of the divided town. Holds it one just man, and declare the cause of why 'tis of discord such a victim grown. Then he to me, after contentious pause, blood will be spilt, the boorish party then will chase the others forth with grievous loss. The former it behooves to fall again within 3 suns, the others to ascend, holpen by him whose wiles ere now are plain. Long time, with heads held high, they'll make to bend the other party under burdens dire. However, themselves in tears and rage they spend. There are 2 just men at whom none inquire. Envy and pride and avarice, even these are the 3 sparks, have set all hearts on fire. With this the tearful sound he made to cease, and I to him, Yet would I have thee tell, and of thy speech do thou the gift increase. Tegaio and Farinata, Honorable James Rusticucci, Mosca Arrigo, with all the rest so studious to excel in good, where are they? Help me this to know. Great hunger for the news hath seized me. Delights them heaven, or tortures hell below? He said, Among the blackest souls they be. Them to the bottom weighs another sin. Shouldst thou so far descend, thou mayst them see. But when the sweet world thou again dost win, I pray thee bring me among men to mind. No more I tell, nor new reply begin. Then his straightforward eyes askance declined. He looked at me a moment ere his head he bowed, then fell flat among the other blind. Henceforth he waketh not, my leader said, till he shall hear the angel's trumpet sound, ushering the hostile judge. By every shade its dismal sepulchre shall then be found, its flesh and ancient form it shall resume, and list what echoes in eternal round. So passed we, where the shades and rainy spume made filthy mixture, with steps taken slow, touching a little on the worlds to come. Wherefore I said, Master, shall torments grow after the awful sentence hath been heard, or lesser prove and not so fiercely glow? Repair unto thy science, was his word, which tells as things approach a perfect state, to keener joy or suffering they are stirred. Therefore, although this people cursed by fate ne'er find perfection in its full extent, to it they then shall more approximate than now. Our course we round the circle bent, still holding speech, of which I nothing say, until we came where down the pathway went. There we found Plutus, the great enemy.